If the rain comes, they run and hide their heads. They might as well be dead if the rain comes. And it certainly did come the night before last. A great electrical storm, lightning, thunder. It was a brilliant spectacle and a very welcome relief to all the hot weather we've been having. I don't think we've really had any proper rain for, well, I would say 6 or 7 weeks, but I haven't really kept an account of that. Well, just take every day as it comes, of course, but the garden was getting very desperate. I was only really able to water the vegetables, beans and such like. Oh, excuse me. And a lot of my, herbaceous plants were suffering. They were drooping leaves and wilting, and even some parts were sort of dying, going brown. And they've really perked up now. I mean, the dead bits are still dead, but all the wilting has kind of lifted. It's really magical to look at that, to see that. And the grass, where it was sort of burnt off, is coming back. You can see it's starting to green up again. So tremendous. But we could do with some more, because that little drop, I mean, it was quite a bit. Okay, it was quite an amount of rain, but we could do with that every week, at least once a week. We could do that with that, please. God. Yes, I'm enjoying Dell's reading of the Old Testament, and how anybody can make sense of that and build not just one religion, but several nonsensical religions based on that one book. And then we get to the New Testament, and that's even worse. It might be less ambiguous, or I don't know whether it is, actually, thinking about it. I can't claim to have read either books of the Bible or any of the books of the Bible all the way through, but I've had passages read to me a great deal in the early part of my life, and then of course it's unavoidable in your adult life. At least I haven't been able to avoid it. Maybe I'm not trying very much, but when I hear it, it just sounds like some ridiculous nonsense to me. However, the Satanic Bible sounds a great deal more wholesome. Yeah, really. And not at all satanic, as you might think that word would imply, which is a load of bollocks, by the way. Satan, the devil, Lucifer, whatever, old Nick, it's all just, well, some of those meanings have different meanings. Lucifer is light, I think. Fire? Certainly light. Anyway, maybe it's the eternal fires of hell they're on about there. Of course, that's all total nonsense, just more scare tactics, just another control mechanism. And that, to me, that is the Bible, at least certainly the New Testament. That's the new, well, that was once the control, 2,000 years or nearly, certainly 1,500 years, if our history is anything like correct, which it probably isn't. So put a time scale on it is a bit silly, but it's certainly used as a control mechanism. And like the eternal fires of hell is where you were going if you sinned. Yet if you said, Sorry. Then you were all right. You got to go through the pearly gates. St. Peter would let you through, and you would have eternal bliss. Can't imagine what that would be like. Like Tony Blair. Now, when Tony Blair was elected in '97, I thought that was a fresh start. I thought we were going to really have a new beginning and a better system, more equal, all that great stuff, all that, I was certainly a socialist. I couldn't really class myself as political at all now in a party political sense. But when Tony Blair murdered tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East, of course I hated his guts and still do. That's maybe a bit strong, but I don't know the chap, but I can't see any good that's come of that. How can it? How can it? And maybe his conscience was kind of, stinging him a little in the back of his mind. I hope it was. But of course, all he needed to do was declare himself. Well, he could have chosen any branch of Christianity, but he chose Catholicism because he knew that included a time with a priest where you could go and confess your sins. So, yeah, fly on the wall in that confession box, eh? So he's totally admonished of all his murders. Fancy that. And he can now make as much money as he likes and have no guilt. Isn't that fantastic? But do you really have to believe? Do you really have to have that faith to do that? Well, yes. If you're not going to kid yourself, then yes. So first of all, you have to kid yourself to have that faith, in my opinion, because I can't have that myself. I've always struggled with, well, so I thought. I mean, I used to believe that we lived on a spinning ball. How fucking stupid is that? But of course, that's the new religion. See, I worked out that God, the Christian God, was bullshit. When I was 7 years old, and my auntie died, and she was 16, and I couldn't square it in my head that God would let this happen, an all-loving, omnipresent being that loved us, and yet he did that to my beautiful 16-year-old auntie, who was like a sister to me. So her parents were incredibly staunch Methodists, didn't drink, gamble, all that stuff. And they really, really did follow that line totally. And how they came to terms with that, I will never know. I couldn't bring myself to ask them, even when I, was much older. The subject was a bit of a taboo, and it kind of still is, in a way. But for me, there was no God then, from that day on. So my auntie's parents, my grandparents, they're both dead now. They had a great influence in my life. There was they lived on a farm, in fact, where I was born. And when I was old enough, I started to work on that farm. So I was with them, you know, a great many, lots and lots of time was spent on that farm up until I was 17 when they left, and I had to go and get another job. But they continued to worship God. They continued to go to chapel, like, I wouldn't say like nothing had happened, but really very much like nothing had happened if you were just viewing from the outside. And to keep the faith, no, I'm not talking about that horrible Bon Jovi, By Jovi song. No, to keep the faith, I'll never know how they did that, but it must be their brainwashing, their programming from their parents, their immediate family, and their social group. And the globe is the same to me. It's we now can see right through the globe, just like back then I could see right through the nonsense of worshipping some piece of shit that would let that happen. So now we know we can see things miles away at sea, over water, that if we were living on a ball wouldn't be possible. So I think that is very similar, i.e. it's a reason to stop the fucking nonsense belief in a spinning ball. It's bullshit. Total bullshit. All you need is one piece of proof that totally destroys the globe, and there it is. So everything else falls into place then, you'll find, if you just give it up. So give it up.